Alright, somebody fucked up. I interrupt my hiatus of not posting for like almost a year to bitch about none other than the current toxic hustle and grind culture of the dance world. I mean, it's always been a problem, but it is somehow getting reinforced during a pandemic. So, obviously, once COVID hit, not just the United States, pretty much anywhere, um, our dance studios got shut down. All of the dancers were laid off, not performing because theaters shut down. So dancers are pretty much out of a job and they don't really have a place to safely train, to stay in shape, to rehearse. So we're all just kind of on like hiatus, like what do we do? Understandable, right? You would think that we get a pass if we physically cannot safely continue our training. You showing everybody your beans? Oh, spicy beans. And it's not even limited to just physically, like a floor and walls and mirror and a bar. There are so many other reasons why a bunch of dancers might not be able to continue their training during a pandemic, such as you got laid off from your job because your job closed and now you're not getting paid. How are you supposed to afford ballet classes, private coaches, studio rentals, new shoes? We saw it happening on Instagram. We saw the rich kids whose parents can like modify the basement into a dance studio for them. Good for you. I'm real pleased that you were able to do that. And the professional dancers, like principal dancers, the rare like top tier 1% of the well-funded companies are able to continue giving their dancers stipends or allow them to rehearse in the studio. They still have access to their coaches. That is only like 10% of dancers. I really want to say only 10% of dancers are financially stable enough or financially privileged enough to continue training regularly, whether they go somewhere else to do it, they hire somebody else to teach them, or they were able to retrofit a part of their home to become a dance studio and just continue training like nothing ever happened. And that's cool, that's creative, we can get behind that, but that's turning into like something that is expected of us, expected of all of us. And that's just not a vibe right now. 90% of the dancers, probably even like 99% of dancers, cannot do that. Me included. I've tried a bunch of times to take a class or teach a class or give a class here in my little tiny apartment living room in the basement of Queens, and it is just not safe. I keep rolling my ankles on these carpets, or when I did get a slab of wood to be like a dance floor, it's still, I can do like one chasse across the thing and I'm still like slamming into furniture and breaking stuff. And no matter how far back I set my camera, the teacher can only see me from the waist up or the waist down. You can't get a full body thing on me. Me personally, I am lucky. I do have a studio that I can go to a few days a week, but because of COVID and because the owner of the studio is very paranoid, I can't really stay and hang out in there and do my own thing. It's just come in, take class, leave, and then she sanitizes everything. So I'm not even bitching about me, my situation. I was in the beginning because I was bitter. I was jealous that I didn't have the money to turn my whole house into like a ballet studio and keep practicing. Like that was a little like rubbing salt in the wound. But then it became this new thing, this new mentality, this new mantra of the pandemic. Like, no excuses. If you really love ballet, you'll find a way. No excuses.
You make it work, no matter what. If you're really passionate about dancing, you'll continue.
You'll find a way.
No excuses.
And like, bro, we're in the middle of a pandemic. It's not an excuse. It's like, it's a legitimate reason. It is a real obstacle, really affecting so many people. And I noticed that most of the people saying the no excuses mantra, it's the older generation. Because when like this dance magazine article came out, when there's like all these Facebook discussions, and I decide to speak out against it, saying like, I don't think this is healthy, I don't think we should be pushing our dancers to do something that is not realistic for them right now, all of the pushback, all of the resistance is from this older generation calling us lazy and whiny and just looking for excuses. But everybody in my generation, ages teens through 20s through early 30s, you all agree with me. I got a huge outpouring of DMs on Instagram or messages on Facebook or just responses to my comments. Y'all are like, thank you for saying this. Like, I've been wanting to say this but never had the words for it, or I was afraid to speak up at the risk of looking lazy. There is an overwhelming majority that feel like this toxic hustle and grind culture is hurting them. And it's always been harmful. It's always been hurtful. It's always been a dangerous game to play because we risk burnout, we risk injury, we risk eating disorders, we risk ignoring signals from our body that we're overdoing it. We risk having a healthy hobby, having a healthy social life. We risk our health and safety when we buy into this hustle and grind culture. And I think we're realizing that. This generation is making more strides in dance medicine, in self-care, in finding ways to increase the longevity of our careers, make our bodies last longer than they used to. Because, back in the old days, the generation of these nut jobs that think that we should be pushing through sprained ankles, back then you did retire at 30. You had no choice. Your body was spent. You broke it because you were hustling and grinding and pushing through it. But now, more recently, we have dancers that are able to dance longer, older dancers. We have more knowledge of the body and of what is and what is not safe to be doing. So it's really strange and really hypocritical that on the one hand, we have these dancers and dance magazines and, dance media outlets saying like, oh, now's the time to change the toxic culture of ballet. Now is the time to learn your limits and learn when to take a step back and listen to your body and don't push yourself. And we're more knowledgeable about mental health. That's great. We want this. But then on the other hand, it's like hustle and grind. I'm making it work in my basement. I'm dancing outside on the concrete, giving myself shin splints. I'm finding a way because I love it. And if you don't find a way, you must not want it enough. No, that's so bad. And that is not a vibe anymore. That is not where we are at anymore. One of the most recent things that came out and was really just kind of like all of my angst just came to a head when I read this article. It was a dance magazine article, and it was like Skylar Brandt is the persistent and never stops working. I forget what the actual title of the article is, but it was basically like, oh, Skylar Brandt is still hustling every day in the studios with her coaches, blah blah blah. Good for her. And Skylar even acknowledged, she was like, look, I know not everybody has these opportunities. She recognized, she's like, I'm really privileged, like I can do this, not everybody can. But like it should have focused on that, but instead it focused on like, oh, she's so inspirational, look at all her turns, she's prepping for principal roles and shows and performances that she's probably not even gonna be able to perform for another like year or two because everything's still fucking closed. And then her coach, Irina Dovorovenko, was like,
she comes in and dances with us 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, while everybody else sits on the sofa eating bagels.
God forbid we sit on a couch and eat a bagel. Do you know how many little girls are going to read that article and hate themselves because they sat on the couch and ate a bagel on their day off? How many little girls are going to think they're not good enough or they don't deserve to be a ballet dancer because they're not grinding and hustling and finding a coach every day? Do you know how many freelance dancers who are not under a contract or do not have somebody else financially supporting them that are like a week away from being evicted, and then you have the dance community telling them that they must not want it enough because they're not finding a way to dance when they don't have, like, hello, they don't have money, they don't have space, it's not safe. I got into an argument with like some guy on Facebook and he's like,
Dancers, do not let the pandemic be an excuse for you to fall into undancer-like habits.
Whatever the fuck that means. And I responded. I replied to his comment, and I'm like, no, dude, like that is like a classist and ableist thing for you to be saying. Like, most dancers cannot do that right now. And he's like,
I danced through hardship because I loved it, because I have passion. You're just making excuses.
can you tell me how you managed to pay for all those things? And he's like, you're just making excuses. He kept skirting the question of how do you pay for it. Because dance, ballet particularly, is one of the most expensive jobs. This is one of the only careers where we are expected to pay for our own training, to always be prepared for a potential job and not get reimbursement for it. We are expected to pay to go to our own job. You need money to be an accomplished dancer. And right now, nobody, except for like 10% of the lucky ones, I guess, nobody has money right now. And you can come at me and say that I'm making excuses all you want.
Oh, just push your couch out of the way, dance on the carpet. Just download a free class. There are free classes streaming right now.
I tried pushing my couch out of the way and dancing ballet on the carpet. Do you know what happened? I sprained my ankle. You are assuming that every dancer has access to the internet, has a phone, or has a laptop. I was without a laptop for a big chunk of last year because my motherboard fried, and my old-ass Samsung is not going to be able to stream a class. And if I really wanted to dance safely, I would need some kind of like hard sprung floor or Marley and the proper shoes. So right there, already, I potentially racked up $200+ for an orthopedist appointment when I sprained my ankle, $120 for an internet bill, anywhere between $600 to $1,000 for a new updated supported phone or laptop so I can access those free classes that people are streaming, and $1,200 in rent because this is where I live. Not to mention, if I really wanted to like make my basement into a studio, I'd need a hard floor. That can cost anywhere from $200 to $800, depending on how fancy you want to get with it. And if I wanted to stay in peak professional shape and continue rehearsing in pointe shoes, I need new pointe shoes. It's $100 a pair. Who's paying for it? Who's paying for me? I really want to know. You cannot tell me that we're just making excuses to not stay in shape. Where are you going to get that money? I am here to fight in your corner. I will not allow prima ballerinas to shame the dance community for sitting on the sofa and eating a bagel. I'm not buying it. I am not buying this hustle and grind culture. I mean, if you want to move and stretch and dance because it feels good to you and it helps you keep your sanity, do that. Do it in a safe way whenever you can. But do not feel guilty about not hustling every day. Nobody should be feeling guilty about how they are getting through this pandemic. There is no wrong way to get through a pandemic other than to survive and be alive when it's over. And if that means you had to work another job to be able to pay your rent, if you had to move back home with your parents, if you have to take care of a parent that got ill, if you cannot leave the house because you cannot risk exposing yourself to COVID because you are immune compromised, if you don't have money, if you're a week away from rent, if you just do not have access to these things, do not feel guilty. Do not let these words get to you. Do not let anybody tell you that you don't want it enough. You are not passionate enough. You don't love it enough. Passion is not paying the bills right now, okay? There is nothing cute about glorifying this hustle culture, this 24/7 grind culture, where you risk hurting yourself, burning yourself out, risking your health and safety. That's not cute. It's not cute. We know now. We know better now. This is the generation that knows that the era of the starving artist, the tortured soul, that's done. That's over. The tortured soul starving artist is not a vibe anymore. We know now that healthy, happy, mentally stable, psychologically healthy, cared for dancers are the ones that have successful careers. I am so sick of this pandemic being turned into a competition of who can stay in shape while everybody else suffers, who can get a leg up on their training while everybody else suffers, who has the ability to turn their basement into a studio. Who has the money and accessibility to rent the studios and pay the coaches and pay the fees and install the floor and buy the point shoes? Who's the one posting the 10 pirouette videos every day? Well, of course you're able to do 10 pirouettes. That's all you do all day. You don't have to find another job to pay your rent. You just wake up, go practice pirouettes for 10 hours a day while your parents pay for everything. Of course you're going to improve. You don't got to go to school anymore. You don't have a job. You're not worried about being evicted. This is not a competition. And it is so dangerous to feel like you need to be doing something instead of resting. Resting is a form of resistance against capitalism and against that toxic grind culture. You are enough. You are still dedicated. You still love to dance, even if you are resting. Self-preservation is necessary. Self-preservation is key. I do not understand the point of busting your ass during a pandemic, trying to stay in peak performance shape when you're not even performing, when you don't even have a job right now. Why are you working for free? Like I said, I understand if you want to move and stretch and dance, just do your own little thing in your time because it makes you feel good and it keeps your sanity intact. But like, why the showmanship? Why do you have to prove to everybody that you're hustling and grinding? For what? Is somebody going to see how dedicated you are and hire you? No. Who's going to hire you? Who is working right now? You're going to train every day and keep yourself in performance shape for free? Nobody's paying you to do that. Why are you working for free? That's stupid. You're letting the capitalists win. You ain't getting paid enough for that. Ain't nobody have time for that. What's the point? I mean, I take a couple classes a week because I can and I want to, and it feels good. But I'm not doing it to prove something. I'm not doing it to beat everybody to the punch. I'm not doing it to get a leg up and try to surpass everybody else that's suffering. I'm not doing it to prove that I love it more than somebody that is sitting on the couch and eating bagels. I don't know why that bothered me so much, but it is my mission. I promise. I swear I am going to do a photo shoot with a whole bunch of bagels. I am going to make a t-shirt that says, sit on the sofa, eat bagels. Go eat a bagel right now. I love bagels. They fuck with my stomach, but I love them. Oh, bagels. I love them. One of my favorite food groups. Bagels solve almost every problem, especially when you're hungover. Nice toasted flat everything bagel with tofutti vegetable cream cheese. Oh, so good. Glass of orange juice. The best. So that's it. I really just wanted to pop in here after a long hiatus of not posting anything. I really just wanted to kind of check in with everybody, make sure that you're okay, remind you that there is nothing to be feeling guilty about. I will sit on the sofa and eat bagels with you, piss off Irina Dvorovenko, and eat bagels all day, even if it means ruining my stomach. I'll do it with a salt bagel too, so that I retain water and get bloated and I look fat and I'll piss her off even more. So, I love you. Stay salty and eat bagels.